Hello, everyone. Welcome to Across the Park podcast. I was expecting our intro to come on there, and it didn't, which was weird. Apologies for those expecting our lovely little tune to come on. I pressed the wrong button on the intro, so I'm sure you'll get over it. So it's myself, Judgy and Pricey, representing the blue side of the park this week, and we've got Phil Roberts and Terry McGibbon representing the red half. We've got Everton's controversial defeat to Man City to cover this week, and Liverpool's first and hopefully last trophy of the season that they brought back from Wembley from Sunday against Man City in dramatic fashion. I think it's fair to say.
Chelsea.
What's that, Phil?
Against Chelsea.
I said Chelsea, didn't I?
Man City, you said.
Oh, sorry. Man City on the brain. Sorry, so it was against Chelsea. We'll also be previewing the FA Cup ties coming up this week. And we'll briefly touch on the other fixtures. A lot of games coming up for both teams, particularly Liverpool. We'll briefly touch on the other fixtures, but we're not going to bore you to death by trying to analyse games that are happening in a week's time. So, Pricey, we're going to kick off with the, I guess the controversy around the decision that, in the end, kind of marred what was a decent performance from Everton. Obviously, our instant match reaction, which the listeners or viewers can still catch on YouTube and on our podcast channels. We talked a lot about the game in general, the fact it was a positive performance from most players out there, the fact we think the manager got the tactics right, but like I say, to not award us a penalty, meant that we've gone away with no points. So the FA have come out today, or the POGML or whatever, the referees association. Mike Riley has come out and apologised on behalf of the Referees Association, I guess, and the FA for the decision to deny Everton a penalty. Thoughts on that? And I guess the game in general?
I don't know if it's better or worse that they've apologised, to be honest with you. It doesn't make me feel any better about it. It was blatant. They had to apologise, I think, because it was so blatant. I don't know anyone who watched it in the grounds at the time. I was in the park end, and obviously it happened in front of the Goodison Street, and I was saying it was a pen straight away, and so was everyone around me. And since then, looking back on it, I know we've done the instant match reaction without the next day as well. And it's blatant. It's the most blatant pen ball that you're ever going to see. So I don't know anyone who's got a different opinion. Every expert that I've seen, every interview I've seen has been the same. So it's more than disappointing, actually. I'm gutted by it because the players did perform really well. I said on the instant match that I couldn't have faulted anyone in the way they played, and I couldn't have done. I think we set up perfectly as well to nullify them, and then try and count them on the counter-attack. We had a few chances in the first half, particularly a couple in the second, not so much, but we didn't look like we were going to get beat. I mean, we looked, I wouldn't say like we looked comfortable, but we looked like we could have easily taken a draw if it weren't for that mistake. And again, I've looked back at that again, and I think it is unfortunate, but I think you do have to say I think Michael Keane should have been on his toes and been able to move into the ball a little bit better than what he did, although it was a little bit of a freak goal. So I was pleased to come out to the ground, pleased with the performance, gutted with the refereeing decision and with that goal. But overall, as I said Saturday, couldn't fault us.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess like the only question I want to ask, and it probably goes out to the viewers, the public, and whatever, is like, so what? All right, they've apologised now, but like, if this was a manager or a player who'd made a mistake that has a significant impact on the game, there'd be punishment for that player or that manager. What's happening to the VAR? To Kavanagh, who was, what's happening to him? Where's the sanction for him? Where's the fine for him? Because a player who impacted the result the way that he had, and it was, someone had realised that afterwards, whether it was due to cheating or he should have been sent off or whatever, there'd be a sanction for them, there'd be a fine, that's not going to get us that point back. But it's not right, is it?
It's not a mistake on the pitch, is it? If it was a referee decision and before VAR was even a thing, if the referee got it wrong and then come out after the game and apologise, you'd accept that because you go, look, players make mistakes all the time on the pitch. It's in the heat of the moment. He didn't see it, whatever reason. The fact that it was VAR and he's sat there having a look at every possible angle he can look at and still comes to the conclusion that it wasn't a penalty. The Reds must be fuming about it as well, because it obviously impacts them as much as it impacts us.
It's not only that as well. Sorry, Pricey. It's the fact that he hasn't just said to the ref, "Look, have a look at it." It's a little bit inconclusive, this, for me, because how can it not at least be inconclusive? There's no way you know, I mean, Mike Riley done that when he looked at the angles. Not Mike Riley, Dermot Gallagher. I think he was on Sky.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
There's one angle where there's a slight doubt, but every other angle it's an obvious handball. So why is he not at least saying to the referee, look, there's one angle there which makes it look like it's not handball, but every other angle it looks like handball. Go and have a look for yourself. Do you know what I mean? That's the least he should be doing, isn't it?
Yeah, the very least they should be doing it. They do it all the time. You have the ref go over to the screen if they're unsure. So the fact he was so sure it wasn't me, you can't help but come to a conclusion that there must be something else going on. There must have been something else going on. I mean, favouritism, I don't know.
Well, I think I put it in our game.
Oh, Man City, though, isn't it? More than anti-Liverpool, I think.
There was all that. I think someone had been messing around on the Wikipedia thing, hadn't he, and said that he's played for Man City and all this nonsense. I don't think that's true. But I went on the Premier League page, premierleague.com, and just looked him up. And his affiliated county FA is Manchester.
Yeah.
What on earth is how on earth is that allowed? Because either he's a Man United fan or he's a Man City fan, because of the fact that he's from Manchester FA, unless he's unless he's a Red, which wouldn't be unusual as well. But it doesn't make any sense that he's allowed to be VAR if his county FA is Manchester, because he's got an obvious bias to that county, that city, that area, and one of those clubs.
Did he give an explanation? Like, did he say, "Oh, it was ball to hands" or something, or what did he?
I think he didn't, but I think what the expert referees who looked at it, Dermot Gallagher or whatever, they said that potentially he might have been saying that it hit the upper part of the arm, which is an handball, but which is where this, it's supposed to be above the sleeve and it's not handball. But I mean, that's just look at different angles. It's obvious it wasn't that. So I honestly don't get it. As I said, in the ground at the time and live, it was clear, it was blatant. And then he's got all them angles. He's looked at it. You've got to think, well, there's something else going on there if he hasn't given that pen.
Yeah, it's just when we all laugh and all that joke and say there's no conspiracies and stuff, but when you're seeing, like, as Phil said, the Spurs game, like where they ended up playing 9.5 minutes of added time. They added on 7 minutes. It was like, where's that from? No one knew where that 7 minutes came from. And then when Spurs score, you see the fourth official sort of look at Pep and go, as if like, oh, gutter for you, mate. It's like, what's going on? Like, what is happening with these referees and that? It's like, we had one, didn't we, when Lacazette goes through and there he scores against us, and Craig Pawson, you see him sort of do like a reaction, like, can't believe that never went in. He's an Arsenal fan. It was like, why is he refereeing our game? It's like, it's mad. And you see his reaction on the pitch, you can see he's gutted that Lacazette hasn't scored. It's like, why is he refereeing our game? We know that they're all human, and obviously they've got biases and they've got clubs that they're into and stuff, but even if it, you shouldn't even be refereeing, even if like the fans of that particular club, because he could end up spoiling the result or wrecking the result by going too far the other way, trying to make it clear that they're not biasing their team or whatever. It's just remove that situation. Do you know what I mean? It's I just don't understand it.
There's that many fixtures and fixtures that can impact other fixtures that it gets an impossibility though, doesn't it? Because you could say, if he supports Manchester or he supports Liverpool, then you can't ever manage the Everton game. You know what I mean? Too many games.
That's right. I agree to a certain extent, but that's blatant, isn't it? If he's from Manchester and he's the VAR in a Manchester game, that's just too obvious.
If you're just going to say, like, look, it's nearly impossible to rule out all potential biases across all fixtures, you're just saying you've just got to be professional about your job.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The other thing about the VAR, it should be easier to eliminate that, because they're not having to travel to Merseyside. It's a lot of, you know what I mean? It's Stockley Park. It's a location which is a lot more central. There's none of the logistics that referees have to like think about, all equipment and all that. You just have to rock up, sit in that van, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? Or sit in the little studio. So it should be a lot easier to man that. And the other thing is, I think it almost should be made more abundantly clear to the VAR if they have got a slight conflict. Look, we're aware there's a conflict there. Therefore, if you're not sure, give the referee the chance to look at it. Do you know what I mean? Don't take away that element of doubt. Now, it might delay things slightly, but as a fan, you'd rather know that they're covering the bases and that the decision is fair. Do you know what I mean? It's just too murky for me. Like, there's no clear statement of going, look, we're aware of this. Why are the fans having to find out this information? Why are we having to research it and go and ask the question? It should just be, look, we've done an investigation. These are the factors that have underpinned or we believe may have influenced the decision. We apologise, and these are the things we're going to do about it. It's like you've almost like Everton have had to squeeze an apology out of them. That's out of order. Do you know what I mean? That didn't have to happen.
Yeah, there's no accountability, is there? And that's the issue. It's like there seems to be no punishment. There's no mechanism or framework for getting them to improve. You just get Mike Riley is just like this, generally this void. You know, it's like you don't hear him. He should be coming out in front and all these up, or let us interview, you know, the referees after the game. Let them get interviewed and explain the decisions. But they want this.
Let us hear. We've said it since VAR come out. Let us hear what they're saying.
Mic them up, yeah, exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
Other countries do it.
They do it in rugby league as well. I watch rugby league. They have it in rugby league. If it goes to the video referee, you can hear what he's saying. You can hear him asking for different angles and stuff like that. And then he's got to explain his decision in real time as why he hasn't given it. And then everyone can hear it. Everyone's on the same page. Even if he's wrong, he's given a reason for it, and you can sort of understand that he's given his reason. He's had to think about it, and you know why he's going to that conclusion. But as you say, this is just like I know we know his name, but it's just like a faceless fella on game day, especially a faceless fella who's come up with a decision. You don't know how he's come about it. You don't even know what he's looking at properly. And then you're in the stands like, how's that possibly not a pen?
The other thing, remember when you know, we done one with Mark Halsey, didn't he? Didn't we a podcast on, you know, it's still there, you can listen to it. And he basically said the problem with the referees now is, you know, I know there's always been that they've never played the game, but he basically said, you know, there's a whole host of ex-referees that can't be the active referees running around the pitch anymore, but you know, they still want to stay involved in the game and stuff. They're not fit enough to sort of referee a high-level Premier League game, but they're very experienced refs, but they're all thrown on the scrappy because they can't basically, you know, do it anymore. They could either get employed in VAR, or I'm sure there's a whole host of footballers who haven't made millions from the game and maybe in lower leagues and stuff that are thinking afterwards, why aren't they getting employed as like VAR consultants or something like that? You know, they can give you some sort of colour as to, you know, other angles or other ideas that maybe the referee is not quite appreciating, you know, in terms of they played the game.
You're right, Terry. There's loads of other professional, like not just professional players. You've got analysts who are good. Yeah. This is what they do for their job. Do you know what I mean? You can pay them as consultants. And this just to kind of put a bit of context around like the blame game here and the fact that they should be accountable. We're not talking about people here who are getting paid like £100 a game. These are on serious money now. These are very, very well paid people. People who'd be, you know, on the salaries equivalent to directors of companies. So they should be accountable and they should be made to kind of face up to scrutiny because, you know, they're both qualified, they've got enough experience, and more than anything else, like I say, they're getting paid handsomely enough to compensate that.
They're impacting a sport that's a multi-billion-dollar industry, but we're letting mad decisions sort of cloud, you know, the actual enjoyment of the game, of the fan and even the players. It's like, it's just nuts, and I wonder when they're going to get a grip of it, because I just think we've said it on this podcast a lot of times. I've been talking about referees and VAR all the time. It's just like
I was saying.
Sorry, go on. You've been trying to get in, Price. You go on.
I was saying it like off it before we started as a joke. Like, what if City win the league by 2 points, or you know, God forbid, Everton get relegated by a point? They've already admitted the wrong. They've already accepted that the wrong for it. So they've got a big lawsuit on. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen either. I wouldn't mind City winning it by 2 points. Like, but if Everton go down by a point, that's massive. That's huge in terms of payout. That I'd expect Everton to be trying to claim back off the FA for in fact.
Still got to score the pen.
No, I know, but it's like the financial fair play, isn't it? What Derby are going through now, because you know the teams are trying to sue them for more because they took their spot in the playoffs or whatever it was. It's similar, isn't it? So it's a bigger picture than just saying sorry for one decision.
That's like what I was just going to say. It's very paradoxical the way they're going like so far into tech to make sure everything's like decisions are right, VAR, goal line technology, and then you can come out and go, well, we got that totally wrong, but we're not going to do anything about it. Like, if you're going to go right down the line of like all this VAR and getting decisions right and saying, and given the reason that, you know, there's billions or millions of pounds on the line, careers, jobs, all that type of stuff, but then you're going to do nothing about something that you've admitted was wrong. It's paradoxical. It's like it doesn't fit. So what do you do about it?
Mike, listen, give managers a challenge each half. That's what I'd do.
Well, again, we welcome your opinions as always. You know, our opinions, I guess, were similar to a lot of Evertonians and Liverpoolians. You know, as Blues, we were incensed by it. Reds, I think, equally to a certain extent, were incensed because it was a chance for them to get a further leg up in City. But again, any other views, questions you've got, please send them through to us. You can comment on this video. If you just listen to the podcast, you can get on our website, acrosstheparkpodcast.co.uk, or at Across the Park PC on social media. So, unfortunately, Pricey, we'll have to move on to the Reds here. I mean, look, just before we do, obviously, give you a chance to lap it up. It was a great game. I really enjoyed the game. One of the best 0-0s I've ever watched. From my perspective, I thought that Tuchel got his tactics bob on. I think he was a better side than them, but they played probably the best way that they could play against that Liverpool team. Obviously got opportunities and stuff, but brilliant game in all, and what a mad way to finish it. But I guess for you, what an amazing way to win it.
Yeah, it was a mad game. As you say, it was a high quality game. You know, obviously you see it from different angles when you're at the game and stuff. And for us, it was like felt tense. You know, every sort of minute of it, you sort of like, you know, like very fine margins. You know, that just gets in there. You've got a couple of disallowed goals to offsides and stuff like that. It's like, it really was one of them games where loads of sort of talking points and loads of things happening. But obviously we played 120 minutes and it's still 0-0. So then we end up going to pens. And as you say, you know, for it to finish 11-10 on pens and the goalies being the ones that ends up settling the tie, you can't really grumble as a neutral or an observer. It's, in terms of a League Cup final, it's probably as much fun as you can have watching it. Really, it was. But you know, for us in the grounds, it was. Whilst it wasn't like a vintage performance, you know, we were hoping that we were going to turn up and, you know, proper stick it to Chelsea, because there was a feeling like, you know, we're going to sort of score a few goals here. I think Gary was saying he was expecting like a 3 or 4-0. He was like, I feel like we're going to smash them. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way. And as you say, Judgy, you know, Chelsea did get the tactics spot on, and they're a good side, a very organised side under Tuchel, and you can see that. But I don't think it helped us in terms of, especially the first 10-15 minutes, losing Thiago in the warm-up, because it's like your plans are a little bit out the window then. The way that our midfield was going to set up has obviously changed then straight away, isn't it, Phil, when you have to wheel Keita in, who wasn't expecting to start.
Sorry, just unmuting myself. Yeah, exactly, yeah, it did. But you know what? I thought Keita was all right. I mean, I don't think he influenced the game going forward particularly. But he put his body on the line, I thought. You know, he was running about, he was making blocks, certainly put a shift in. And, you know, I was relatively happy with his performance. But that said, on that nice wide pitch, made for Thiago, isn't it? And also the pressure of a final and all that. It would have been great. But I wasn't fortunate enough to get a ticket myself. But at some moments in that game, I was thinking, oh, it'd be horrible to be there now. Like, in a weird way. You know what I mean? Just like too heart in mouth, too friggin' stressful at times. Was it like that for you?
Yeah, it was. You know, flowed that way. You sort of like on edge, thinking, oh, you know, like freaking hell. You know what I mean? But it wasn't one of them where you sort of like proper enjoying it and you feel like dominant. You know, it was a very, very finely balanced game, and you sort of on edge and tense right the way through. You know what I mean?
We were dominant in terms like possession, passing, you know, whatever. But they just looked more cutthroat to me. It looked like they were going to do the more damage when they did get in. As soon as they got that ball, obviously they were looking to play it in behind Trent, who I don't think had his best game actually. Not because he was out of position, just generally. But I
don't think he impacted the game as much as you'd expect him to. I actually don't think he was like caught napping defensively loads though.
No, he wasn't. But they were getting it behind him fast. One touch, bang, straight to that. Like, just like they knew what they were going to do. And they lashed it across the box a few times as well and stuff. Do you know what? They haven't got a finisher, have they, really? That's why I thought Lukaku was going to be big for them, because, you know, when it falls to Werner, you're fairly comfortable that he's not going to bury it, to be honest. And I think that's Chelsea's main issue. You could see, actually, when Lukaku come on, they did look like they might have what it took to put it in the back of the net eventually. But no, overall, I think, you know, we deserved the win. I think we dominated that ball. We dominated the second half as well, didn't we? More so, I thought. Yeah, and look, first of 4 now, Terry.
But that's it, yeah. You know, and you know, it's one of them. It's obviously, it's been 10 years since we won a domestic trophy, and we've had near misses and stuff, but to sort of like get that one in the bag, do you know what I mean? And we've talked about it for so long, and I've grumbled and moaned the way we sort of play kids and stuff like that, you know, in these runs. And I'm like, getting a trophy early in the season, you know, City have sort of thrived off the back of that. I think they've won it 4 years running, haven't they? And it's like, it gives you that sort of feel-good factor. It gives you that sort of momentum to carry into the second half of the season. And with the League Cup not having as many rounds and stuff, it's like it always seems to me to be just a glaring mistake to sort of sabotage it and lash it and not be bothered. The fans have had a day out at Wembley there. It was absolutely bouncing. You know what I mean? It's obviously an early one. It's February, and it's not like a one in May where it's a nice sunny day and all that. But it was boss. It was great to get down there. You know what I mean? And to win that and sort of give the players a bit of a feel. You know what I mean? Lift another trophy. Yeah. Not like the Premier League one where they ended up lifting it with no fans there. You know, some of them players have had a chance to experience straight away what it's like. Like Diaz, what's he thinking? He's been there for about 3 weeks. He just lifted the trophy for Liverpool in front of about 50,000 Reds. So, you know what I mean? I thought he had a boss game, and it really does give you that sort of tonic, you know, going into the latter part of the season. And when you look at it, you know, we've closed the 14-point gap to City in the league. Or thereabouts, you know what I mean? We've just won a trophy and got that in the bag, as you say, 1 of 4. It's got to be good for you, you know what I mean? It's got to be good for everyone at the club.
Yeah, it's a springboard. It's a springboard trophy, isn't it? Absolutely. I think Luis Diaz was brilliant, I thought. Do you know what? It's a weird one, isn't it? Because Salah should have been the player to come off, not Mane and not Diaz. But it's just one of them, isn't it? Where you sort of you feel like you can't.
It depends as well, though, innit? I know the pens, obviously, every player in the end took a really good pen. So you look back and think, yeah. But I just think, you know, I think everyone, I certainly at home had a feeling once it got to the 70th minute, this is going to go all the way, yeah. Neither team looked like, I know you had a stronger second half, but Chelsea was still a threat throughout. But it just looked like one of them games that it was just going to be either 0-0 or even 1-1, because I felt like if one scored, the other might equalise. So I think in the back of his mind, as a manager, you're always thinking, what if? And then it goes to pen, you want Salah on the pitch, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And you know, even though Mane, I thought, looked threatening and stuff, and Salah had a pretty quiet game by his standards, you're still thinking, if we get one chance in the game, who do you want this to fall to? And
he did get it. He did get it too, but he missed.
Yeah, but you sort of have to keep him on, don't you? And as you say, though, I think, you know, Diaz, I thought he had a great game. He's just relentless running, you know, like in sort. He's always putting himself in position. Oh, I don't know what that was.
Sorry.
As you say, it's like it's just that he looks like a prototype Klopp type of forward, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
boss to get him good fit.
Yeah, there's a lot of players around the world.
Before we move past Mane, we did have a question on social. It was on our in reaction to your instant reaction. It was from Joshua Poulter, again on our YouTube channel. He says, "Hi lads, any thoughts on Mane's reaction to being subbed? He didn't look bothered about celebrating, and he's not posting on social media either." I mean, on the celebration one, in case you didn't gather it, there was some stuff in relation to he didn't want to get covered in champagne and all that. So he kind of said, "Look, I'm going to step away while all the champagne's going," because he's a really, you know, he's, you know, not that there's types. Yeah, he's Muslim and he doesn't drink alcohol or anything like that. So that might have been the reason why he didn't get overly involved in the celebrations. But any thoughts on that? Is it just one of them where, you know, you're a good player, you don't want to come off in a game like that?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it before lots of times, him and Salah, to be honest, where you think there's been times in the past where I've thought, that looks a bit, don't like the look of that. And then next game you see them hugging and all that, or hugging in training and things. So it always cools down really, really quick. So, but there has been talk of Mane, maybe his nose being put out of joint by us signing Luis Diaz. He's come out and spoke about wanting to play for Real or Barca. So there might be a bit more to it. Time might be coming to an end for Mane. Maybe he knows it. But I did also see a picture of him with a prayer mat in the changing room, and someone saying, like, when he come off, he went to pray for Liverpool to win, and that's why he wasn't as involved in the celebrations. But I don't know.
Listen, it's one of them. You know, Mane's a winner. You know what I mean? He wants to score goals. He wants to be on the pitch. You know what I mean? He wants to have a say in the games, and he's being taken off. And I don't expect anyone to be happy at getting taken off in a final. Do you know what I mean? It's especially when you've looked like you're not being a threatening player on the day. So he's probably thought, I've had a good game. Why am I going off? So I can understand why he's upset. I still think he's professional enough though to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? If you're asking me, do I think that we will sell Mane? I do. And I've said that for quite a while. I think he'd be the one to go out of him and Salah. And as Phil said, there's been talk about it in the summer. He's saying that he wants to experience playing for one of the La Liga giants and stuff. So, maybe that is in the back of his mind, and he is a little bit sort of upset, and he's thinking I won't get many opportunities, maybe to enjoy it in front of the fans and score a winning goal or whatever for Liverpool. He might only have a couple more opportunities. So, you know what I mean? It's one of them. As long as it doesn't spoil the rest of his season, I don't care if a player's upset at getting taken off the fan. It's like, it is what it is, isn't it? It's like,
it's better than him coming off smiling, isn't it? 0-0 forward, final. He comes off smiling and all that. That's worse, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it hasn't done anything to us. It hasn't. We've still gone on to win the game. I don't think it's going to cause any problems. I think he's a professional, Mane. So
everyone's loving Luis Diaz, and he's probably looking at that position going, I've got competition here now, and I expect Mane to be the type of player to rise to it.
Yeah. So, and he has done when we've asked him to go and play as the number 9 and stuff like that. He seemed to relish that extra pressure, didn't he? When he needs to step up. So hopefully it does give him, an extra kick, and it gives him a bit of fire in his belly to go and help us win the other 3. We'll see what happens.
The only thing is, Terry, 120 minutes of an exhausting game. That's the only negative, isn't it? Like, we're going to be tired off the back of that.
Yeah, but it's. I don't.
I think you'd be more tired, Phil, if you lost it.
Yeah,
I think when you win a trophy like that, it's one of them, innit? Like, the mind's in situations like that, and with momentum, it's a lot more powerful, isn't it? If you've won it, you take it as a positive and go, you roll on. You've just got a trophy behind you and all that. I think if you lose it, if you're Chelsea, I think you're looking at that going, that's a massive negative. It took us 120 minutes and we've lost it.
But that's it. And at the weekend, we're playing late. We're the later kick-off, right? It's not a Sunday game, but at least we're playing later. And midweek, you've just come off what, felt like it could have been a 12 or 15-0 win against Leeds. So it's sort of, they've had an easier run in that midweek game. It wasn't like one where I thought all the players had killed themselves. We said it couldn't have been a nicer prep going into a final. And obviously they put a long stint in there at the final. But as Judgy just said, when you go on to win it, that tiredness disappears a little bit, doesn't it? Because it's sort of like...
Yeah. I think the last thing... Sorry, Judge, go on.
Yeah, I was going to move you on because we are cracking on.
Okay, well, we will move on, but let's just... I think you've got to mention the keeper, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was some debate about whether he should or shouldn't start. Klopp's gone with him. And I think, look, I was of the opinion that there's no sentiment in a cup final, but Klopp, he's got us there. He's played, and if you think about it, we want to keep him as a second keeper. And now, why would he leave? He's been a big part in the season. He's played in a final, won a cup. He's probably going to stick around for next season now, isn't he? And it's great.
Absolutely, he needs giving credit because you know what I mean. It was a lot, as you say, there was a lot of talk about no sentiment. Throw Alisson back in, nice one for getting us there, but you play your best in the final, which I can understand. But that's a lot of pressure on the young lad's shoulders when Klopp basically said no, he is going to play, because obviously he's thinking then, well, the spotlight's on me now. In this final, I've got to perform, and fair play to him, he did perform. Do you know what I mean? And though he never saved any pens or whatever, he's gone on and under the pressure situation when it's come down to the keepers, he's gone and absolutely buried his. Do you know what I mean? And Kepa hasn't for Chelsea, so he's going to remember that. As you say, Phil. You know what I mean? And I really think he's a good keeper. He looks a very, very solid, reliable backup option to Alisson. So, I'm made up. He's had his opportunity there. He's played his part, a big part in this season, no matter what happens now.
Good with his feet too. So he's a Liverpool type keeper as well. He's not just a good keeper; he's a fit. So
yeah. No, really good. Made up for him. Brilliant.
Yeah. Great story.
Okay, so you guys are obviously playing tomorrow night, so I'll try and allow you to touch on that first, because otherwise our viewers might not get this in before you play. So just briefly, and I'd like to think that there'll probably be quite a few changes for tomorrow's game with the 120 minutes you've just referred to. Not at your own, probably one of your favourite opponents in the history of football. What are your thoughts on that briefly, on looking towards that game?
Well, obviously we only played them, didn't we, last week? And we beat them, but I did actually think they played all right. You know, it looked like they've got some good young footballers there. You know, and they did try and approach the game like in a proper way. And I think they seem to have. I wouldn't say the resurgent in form, but they seem to be picking up a couple of points along the way here and there now. So it's one of them. I think for them, will they rest players because it's like it's the FA Cup, and the league has to be their priority, I suppose, with a relegation fight. Or will they see it as let's try and go strong in it?
I think the powers that be at Norwich have probably already spoke to each other and said, "We're down. Let's build for next season." I think they're already gone, aren't they, lads? I think they'll go strong. And my worry is that they're good enough to beat your kids. They're definitely good enough to beat your kids if they put a strong team out. Now, will Liverpool play the kids, or will they play sort of a second string? Because that's two different things. And I think our second string will be okay. But the kids, I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll play kids because, we've been talking about it, haven't we? We've got our whole squad practically fit and available now. It's been like really good. The benches look really strong the last couple of weeks and stuff like that. So you've got players there who are probably thinking, I'm going to get a go against Norwich. So you've got, Milner might play, Minamino, Origi, all of these types of players it might end up playing. I think you'll probably rest maybe a Keita or a Henderson because now that we've lost Thiago, you're sort of thinking, aren't you? Well, like our strongest midfield. I don't know how long Thiago's out for, but
no.
I think there'll be some rotation. It's definitely, and there's players there who will probably, be expecting opportunities. I don't think you're going to start looking and picking kids up from like the under-19s and stuff for this FA Cup tie.
You're going to Kanate, Gomez, Simicast, all that are good enough to beat Norwich.
It should be good enough to beat Norwich in an FA Cup at Anfield. So. I'm confident we can get the win, and then we're looking at. I think that puts us in the quarterfinals, doesn't it? The FA Cup. So certainly want us to take it seriously because again, you're close enough now that it's a live prospect to get another trophy. So
is Kelleher in the FA Cup? Is he the FA Cup goalie as well, or is it just the League Cup? Kelleher.
Can't remember now actually whether he's playing in the FA Cup.
I guess it probably depends on the opponents. I don't think he's played. Oh no, I think he did play in the third round. What are we now? The fifth round?
It's just the fifth, isn't it?
Yeah. I think he may have played in didn't you play a lower league team in the third round?
Shrewsbury, was it? In the third round?
Yeah, he definitely played in Shrewsbury.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So, but I definitely think we've got enough to win it. Do you know what I mean? And as I say, we should take it relatively seriously. And there's players there, that I think will be coming in and should easily do the business. I don't think it's the greatest day for an FA Cup tie, though. I feel, everyone talks about the magic of the cup, and you've shifted it to like a midweek game. It's not quite the same for them teams that are outside the Premier League, is it? When they're probably looking forward to like a Saturday weekend.
Say that, Terry, but under the lights at Anfield.
Yeah, it's different against another Prem team, but if you're a lower league team, like, you know what I mean, you're going and playing on a midweek night when the kids and stuff can't go because the schools and stuff like that. It's, I think it should always be a weekend, the FA Cup, but it is what it is. I suppose we've got to do it with the fixture congestion, but definitely think we can get the win, and hopefully we do.
Predictions
then, briefly.
I'm going to say Liverpool 2-0.
I'll match it 2-0. I agree.
Okay, so Pricey, we've got a slightly different proposition on Thursday night, an even better night for an FA Cup game, proper FA Cup in it, Thursday night. So it's Boreham Wood who come to town. Obviously, I think they're the lowest ranked club from a league position that are left in the competition. Enter Everton. I know you've got a little story, Price, that you picked up from the post-match of their last game.
I just seen the Boreham Wood manager's post-match when he beat Bournemouth the other day. I didn't realise he'd been in prison and sort of got himself together. And Ian Wright had mentored him and sort of still is a big friend of his and offers him advice and stuff. And if anyone watches that post-match interview at Bournemouth, it's a really good interview, sort of nearly crying on it, going into the reasons why Ian Wright's helped him. But yeah, they made a TV show a while back, Ian Wright, about inner city kids in, I think, London who'd gone to prison and he tried to help them and he's helped him obviously get back into football. And he's now the manager of Boreham Wood coming to Goodison. So really good story, that, and fair play to him for turning it round. So it's made up that they beat Bournemouth, and obviously, as I say, coming in, they've got the chance against a Premier League team, which will be for full Goodison Park and hopefully a bouncing Goodison Park.
Well, we had a question. Just this is going to be my first question to you anyway. Nick Morris, who's a big follower of the show, big fan. Thanks for the question again, Nick. He's asked, would you go strong against Boreham Wood on Thursday, or would you introduce some of the players who maybe haven't had enough minutes and focus? That was the second part with a half an eye on the Spurs game on Monday.
Spurs being Monday helps because it gives us them extra couple of days rest, but I would bring in players like Delhi, maybe give El Ghazi a go. Them players who are on the fringes, as the lads were saying, for the red side of it, not kids and not players who are inexperienced, but sort of second string players who can come in and do a job. I don't think we need to go, not that we need to, but I wouldn't go full strength and an unchanged team, if you like. I'd definitely bring in those fringe players just to get them the match, them two that I've mentioned, Delhi and El Ghazi particularly. Gomez, just get them playing and get them the match fitness up. Mikalenko maybe left back if he's back in contention. I'd probably start him. I think we'd be strong enough.
Patterson get a fair start for you, or
yeah. I think it's a good chance to bring him in. I think if you played, centre half, we were short on options anyway because of injuries. You probably keep them too. As centre halves, Michael Keane and Holgate. And I think if Keane's on Patterson, put him on Patterson's side and just talks him through the game, I think it'd be a good opportunity to bring them in and let him get that experience of playing at Goodison, as I say, full house, an important game, a game that means something, but with the opposition, one that we should be strong enough, too strong for.
Yeah, I've got a feeling. I actually think he should play Branthwaite. I think Branthwaite should get a start. He's only really played against Chelsea this season. He had a good game against Chelsea. It was one of those where it was like pretty much backs against the wall for the whole game. So it's a slightly different proposition, but he's a good footballer, Branthwaite. We're going to have a lot of the ball, you'd imagine, against Boreham Wood. He is a good footballer. I'm not sure who would make way, but I'd be tempted to say Michael Keane out of the two. He's probably the most, he's the older of the two centre-backs and maybe one who's feeling the pace of so many games in a short period of time. But we'll see. In terms of the lineup, I agree with the three you mentioned the two you mentioned at the start. I'd also go with Townsend as well. Obviously, an experienced campaigner. He got he got one goal when he come off the bench against Hull in the last round. I think the round before, the third round. Again, it's not a risk, is it, playing someone like Townsend? I think he'll be a player who'll relish playing against a lower league team because he's got plenty in the locker from a skill point of view, and again, he's experienced enough to know that he's got to take these games seriously.
Well, Townsend, I would play Townsend against Man City personally because I think he's played well this season. I think he offers us something definitely. So yeah, get him in, get him playing. I think not that we've got a decent squad now or strength in depth, but compared to how we were even pre-January, we're able to field a second string team that's strong enough, not only against Boreham Wood, but against, if we had the Championship team or a League One team or whatever, we could probably field it against those type of teams. I still think that we'd be able to win as well. So he's got to be able to use a squad and bring those players in. As I say, I think Tottenham's a bit, I get what you point about Michael Keane. I always like to have, I think them two, Keane and Holgate, need as much time on the pitch together as they can get personally. But I get what you're saying if he's tired and stuff like that. But I think there's a big enough gap between Thursday and Monday to not worry too much about resting players for that reason. More so giving other players an opportunity.
I would still personally.
Go on, sorry.
I was going to say I'd still personally start with Charlison. I think he's a player we've seen who plays a lot on confidence, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? He always finds a way to get himself up for the big games at Goodison. But I think he's a player still who hasn't scored as many goals this season as he would have liked to. He certainly hasn't scored as many goals this season as he has in previous seasons, up to this point. So I think starting the game and maybe getting a couple and coming off after an hour, I think that'd do him the world of good.
100%, yeah, and it's a good opportunity for that to happen as well, isn't it? As you say, he's been disappointing in terms of his goal tally this season. So yeah, if you can play, Calvert-Lewin's injured as well. I think he had a late fitness test against Man City. I don't think he's fit enough to play as it is. So I think your options are limited anyway. But yeah, I'd play with Charlison, as you say, just as a confidence builder, if anything else. And we're saying that as if we're disrespecting Boreham Wood, but you'd expect us. I know it's Everton, and we're that type of team that can can falter at these type of games. But I think you'd have too much of Boreham Wood. I think that it's not a disrespect to them to say that we should be beating them by a couple of goals at least. And getting Richarlison on the pitch to maybe bag a couple and get his confidence up would be an ideal result.
Well, predictions then, and I'll just ask you to briefly touch on a prediction for the Spurs game, which is obviously a massive one for us in the league. So starting with Boreham Wood. I
do think we'll score 3 or 4 against Boreham Wood. I do. I think the non-league team coming to Goodison, full house, we should be rolling them over quite substantially. So I'll say 3 or 4-0 for Everton in that game. Hoping I don't have egg on my face and Phil doesn't crop this comment for the next pod or whatever. But and then Tottenham away, it's hard, isn't it? If we set up like we did against Man City, I don't see why we can't get a result. Predictions, I'd probably say a score draw, but I'd hope that we win by 1.
Okay, I'm going to go 4-1 in the Boreham Wood game. I think they might get a late consolation. I think if we either go a few in front or whatever, I think they'll get on the score sheet. And for Spurs, I'm going to go 0-0. Again, I said it in the instant match, and again, I think you agreed as well. I think we need to carry that type of attitude and mentality into the Tottenham game where we're just harder to beat, and we try and take our chances. I just think it might be one of them games for both teams where, I mean, Tottenham have been a bit mixed in terms of their form anyway, and generally speaking, they do find it difficult when a team sits in and play deeper. So I'm going to go 0-0 in the Tottenham game, which I think for us would be a decent result. Okay, so sorry, Tay, you're on mute.
I should say we didn't do a prediction for our West Ham game.
No, so go on, give us one for your West Ham game then.
I'm going to say Liverpool 2-1 on that one.
It's a tough game, that, by the way.
Yeah, they're a threat as well, aren't they, in terms of set pieces and that. So I reckon they might nick one, but I still reckon.
David Moyes coming to Anfield, though, never been good for anyone. That well, apart from news.
I think if you look at their games recently, they tend to score 1 goal, maybe 2. They don't tend to score much more than that. And I think they're going to be sit in, try to be resolute, and make it difficult. They're going for Champions League, aren't they? So I think they're going to look to get a point, I think, out of that game and make it hard for us. But I don't think they'll score. Don't think they'll be adventurous enough. But I think it'll be 2-0.
Yeah. Set pieces. They're always a threat on set pieces. I mean,
we're good at set pieces, though.
What?
We're boss at set pieces.
We're boss at West Ham away on set pieces, were we? We conceded 2 proper sloppy set pieces.
True.
So,
2-0.
I hope you're right, like.
So Phil started by saying they nearly always score 1 goal, sometimes 2-0.
I said we're boss on set pieces, but we conceded set pieces against West Ham.
No, what I mean is they don't score loads of goals, West Ham, do they? They're not a big goal scorer.
No, they don't. No.
And on top of that, they're going to be defensive against Liverpool because a point would mean the world to them. So I think they'll go for that point rather than think sod it, shots or nothing, go for it. Moyes won't do that.
No, they'll back, but they'll rely on corners and free kicks. That's where they're dangerous.
Got to win them first. Not
okay. Bryce, you can clip that one. All right, well, thanks everyone. We will be back later on the week with our usual game on. Trying to think of some new ideas for this week. We didn't do This Week in History last week because it was starting to get a little bit tired, and lo and behold, we got a message asking where's This Week in History. So we'll have a think about the format for this week. But thanks for tuning into the first episode. Enjoy the rest of your week.